Welcome to the SWBL Podcast presented by 1356 Public House. Tonight, I am joined by two Hall of Famers to break down the season 21 schedule that just came out. I'm joined by Brett Spencer, a founding father, if you don't remember, from all the conversations last year, entering his 20th season. Did you miss 1 year?
This will be my 19th. I missed 2
season.
years. So I'm one behind Sam, and I think Gus and I are each one behind Sam for the second longest now.
Okay. And I'm also joined by Spencer Bogad, the anarchist of the SWBL. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Happy to be back. I was on time tonight, so I'm very happy about that.
Very good. Very good. All right, boys. Well, let's jump into it. First thing I want to talk about, just to give, anybody who's not really paying attention to the website or any of the media that Sam's been putting out, just a little bit of a hot stove update. Most free agents, unlike last year, re-signed with their teams from the previous season. So almost exclusively everybody re-signed with the team they played with in season 20 for a 1-year deal. The exception to that is Evan Quo. He signed with a 2-year deal with the A's, but he did re-sign with the A's. And then Evan Close is still unsigned with the Expos. So he is right now, other than people who maybe didn't play last year, he is the only one that is still out there in free agency. So first thoughts about just those two before we kind of go into two other topics.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Well, Evan, as we all know, had a great rookie season on the mound for the A's. And it's no secret the A's need a lot of talent added to their squad. So might as well lock up a guy that was in the running for Rookie of the Year. He did a great job. I expect him to do even better this upcoming year than he did last year. We all know the first year in the league, kind of learning curve. And then Evan, the other Evan, he is unsigned, which is kind of surprising, but I can almost guarantee he'll be back with the Expos. Also a solid player for that team. He seems to make some just theatrical plays. He just kind of comes out of nowhere, big hits, big catches. He's always running hard. And he kind of is the heart and soul of the Expos. I would like to add, there is one player you did not mention, Sam. I don't know if this has been announced yet. Sam Eichenlob. I can lob. I believe he signed with the Expos as well.
He was drafted. That was going to be, I had two more names to bring up. So
Okay.
Spencer jumped the gun here, but
Sorry.
all good, dude.
Here we go.
Yeah. The Expos did draft Sam Eichenlaub, a MoWIF guy who has some connections, did play with Jimmy Nelson in MoWIF this past year. I think MoWIF. Was it MoWIF or was it Summer League?
Jimmy showed up maybe like twice.
Okay, well,
I don't know if they did much together.
He played for the Empire at MoWIF, and then he also played for the Pesky Pine Trees during Summer League.
Okay.
Yeah, and he did very well during the Summer League, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a champion. He's a champion.
Yeah. And then one other name is coming back to the SWBL, and Trent Steffes.
Oh, wow.
Has signed a 1-year deal with the White Sox. So everybody's soulmate in wiffle ball is going to be back at the Blur, providing potentially some depth to the White Sox. Not really sure what the role is going to be with them, but kind of fills out that squad a little bit more. Thoughts on Trent joining the White Sox there, guys?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the O-Face podcast that we just put out, because I was just watching that before this, and Sam was talking about bringing Trent back and how John Callaway, finagled that. I know Trent wants to come back. He's excited, and I think he'll get some innings on the mound. Minimal at bats. I'm not sure if he'll get, who knows? I mean, he's done some damage in UF every once in a while, and he's played SWBL before, but I think he'll get some innings on the mound. But I think Sam Eichenlob's the same thing. I think he'll get minimal at bats and more as a pitching, depth behind Jimmy and Jeremy. So I'm curious to see how they do, but I'm glad, Sam got in the league, and I'm glad Trent's coming back. And I'm with you, Spencer. I mean, the Expos are Kevin's just like going to wait. He'll sign Evan eventually. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
For sure. And to add on what you said, the White Sox last year was their first year together. Lots of talent. Everyone picked them to do very well. John Callaway leading the helm. They have really solid players that every team at every position they have, every team would probably want their player on their team. Very solid team. But I think the missing piece, the thing that they're missing was that clubhouse guy. And I think Trent Steffies is that guy that can rally the guys together, keep everybody in kind of a balanced mood, not too high, not too low. And I hear he's a pretty good shot maker. So he will have the gin ready for the White Sox, and probably anyone else that wants any shots. And then what I would say about Sam is he's a really good hitter, very, very good hitter. He was a little streaky during summer league, but I think at first he may have to fight for some at bats for the Expos, but I think they'll probably see pretty early on that he's a batter you want in your lineup every game.
Yeah, I've heard that his number one attribute is as a hitter. So hearing that he might get minimal at bats and is going to be more of a pitcher for them kind of confuses me a little bit. But like you said, he might get up there and get 2 or 3 at bats and they realize, hey, we got to keep this guy in the lineup. So, and if they decide not to sign Evan, or if for some reason maybe the reason he's unsigned is that he can't come this year, that's a hole to fill because Evan has really become a much better hitter over the past few years. So it could end up working out for them to have Sam on the squad. So
yeah,
pretty good ad there. Well, guys, the big reason we're here is to break down the schedule that just came out. I know Sam is still probably putting a few of the media kind of on social media announcements out about the different games, but the schedule is live on the website as of this point. So we're going to just break it all down. But we're going to I want to dive into the first 2 games. For the past 2 years now, the SWBL has done a game 1, which is a regular season game just played prior to Memorial Day weekend, where there's a lot more production put into it. And it's just starting to become a bit of a tradition. The Expos have played every year in game 1. And unfortunately, this year, they technically are not playing in game 1. They are playing in game 2, but that's because we are doing 2 early games this season. So let's start with game 1. It's Rockies at Athletics. Thoughts on this matchup, guys, and it being the one that kind of kicks off the year?
Yeah, I think this is a game that when you look at the schedule, Rockies, A's, both coming off years that they wish probably had gone a little better. Let's just be honest. And this is a game that I think both of these teams are probably circling on their schedule and saying, this is a game we need to win. So although I'm not convinced either of these 2 teams will be playing in the playoffs this season, I think this is a game that they both are going to want to start out 1-0. And you never know. I mean, Rockies go 1-0 here. They may string some wins together and surprise a bunch of people. This first game, I find, for a lot of these teams can define their entire season. So I think this is a great game to start our season off with. 2 teams that are just going to be fighting to improve, a lot to prove on the field. So I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you said it best. They struggled last year. I think they both look to improve. I don't know how the A's started last year. I was trying to just doing some searching there, but I would assume they might have lost their first game too. So the Rockies and A's probably both started 0-1 last year and are looking to change that immediately this year. And one of them will. There's no ties. So I think the Rockies improve, and I think the A's are, bringing Evan back. And like you said, he'll get better. So we'll probably see Evan on the mound, I would assume. And then Chad. I do know Blake's trying to give more to Jason and Adam on the mound this year. So we'll see who they go with. I mean, the A's have never faced Jason or Adam. So it's a toss up for me. I mean, I think they'll both be better than they were. It's going to be tough with the field, but it's going to be a good first game. I'm excited. Yeah,
I agree. I think, my first impression was kind of what you said, Spencer. Two teams that didn't have the outcome that they wanted. I think the Rockies are probably a little more surprised at the outcome that they had, but the A's were, still in the thick of it, but just didn't quite get back into that playoff spot that they had longed for. And so being able to not only have a matchup that I'm sure they both feel like they can win, but two, honestly, get to a game sooner. If you think about it, like 2 weeks or whatever it is prior to the actual weekend is probably something that's kind of nice for them to be like, okay, our off season isn't quite as long as everybody else's, so we can kind of get back into it. I think that's something that they'll be kind of chomping at the bit to get going on that day. So real quick, pick a winner and a score prediction.
I'm gonna go. I hate to do this, but I think the A's, they're probably gonna throw Evan Quell, which is probably a good idea. And everyone just struggles against lefties. So I'm gonna go A's 7-4. I'm even gonna add, like my grandpa always said, you can't fry the beans until they're out of the can. So A's 7-4.
I will disagree. I think that just because, like you said, Evan Close is like the heart and soul. Grant Boyd was the heart and soul of the Rockies. He'll be back, although he won't be there for this game. So, I'm going back and forth now. I was just, I just argued against myself, but I still think they can't, like, they didn't score any runs last year in the first game. I think they're going to improve. I mean, Blake's like, he was not happy with how he played last year. BK has to do better. He'll definitely do better. So I kind of think the Rockies pull it out 4-3, maybe low scoring. Evan is going to pitch well, I think, but I think they'll pull it out. So
4-3. I think, one last thing I was thinking about with this game, depending on who loses, right? I think the demeanor is a little bit different. I think the A's, if they lose, they're used to adversity a lot, and fighting, and even if it's a close game, they're used to that. I mean, even their run to the championship that one year was a lot of close games. I feel like the Rockies, I just wonder if they lose that first game, are they going to get in their heads and say, oh God, are we in for it again this year? Like, are we really not as good as we think we are? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just getting into their head of saying, God, I don't want to be a repeat of season 20.
And let's not forget, this isn't just the first game of the season. This is weekends before the weekend. So this is like a very special game that not a lot of teams like playing in, but it is a special game. It's a way to highlight some of the talent in our league. We're going to have announcers. We're going to have not as a huge production as years past, but it is a very, very special game. And, you can't have a cheeseburger without cheese. You know what I'm saying, Brian? Like, you got to have the cheese. And to me, this first game is the cheese.
Yeah. All right. Game 2. The first time we're having a second game prior to the season. And we get the Expos, like I said, playing another one of their early games. They actually are probably the only team that really loves to do this. They've been in every game. And are they undefeated pre-season, like in the early season?
Yeah, I think they've won the last 2 game 1s. When I played with them on the Brewers, I played on the Expos, we played against the Brewers, and then they played the Astros last year.
Yeah, and that was a great game. So,
and speaking of Evan Close doing acrobatic plays,
swatting that
one back. I mean, what a play!
Great.
That
was great.
Great games.
He can scramble that bacon. He can put it in the pan and fry it up.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they're playing the Orioles, and the powerhouse that they are. So their run may end this year, but you never know. They could have the magic. So, a lot of history between the teams, the players on each team. Obviously, Brett, you playing with both squads. Just kind of talk me through this matchup, what you're kind of expecting.
Yeah. So obviously, I would assume we get Jimmy Nelson, like, no doubt. But they already have they've been putting out content that they already are saying, all right, well, this is technically game 2. So if we lose, it doesn't mean as much. So they're kind of preparing themselves. So we should win. It's going to be like taking candy from a baby.
Yeah, I kind of agree. To me, this is the Orioles. Speaking of the weekend, one of the best parts about the weekend is the barbecue, right? Like, everyone gets together, everyone's family comes, And to me, this game, the perfect the best team here are the Orioles. They're like a bratwurst, Brian. They're just like a perfect bratwurst right off the grill. But guess what? A bratwurst without ketchup, you know what that is? It's a hot dog. And to me, the Expos are just a tiny little hot dog. So I got Orioles big in this one.
Score predictions,
A lot to a little.
run rule.
So yeah, I mean,
Probably.
last year I'm going with what happened last year. We didn't put up a lot of runs against Jimmy. So who knows? He's good in game one. He also crushed shit, it's game two. So he's good in pre-weekend games. And then he, loses his sight or something. I don't know what happened last year. But either way, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I don't think the Orioles put up as much as we did last year in our first game. We just came out hot. But I'd say, 7-2.
Spencer.
I think since school's still in session, some of the parents of the teams that have kids are just gonna be a little stressed out. So I kind of agree with Brett, but I feel like it's gonna be like 9-2, 10-2. I imagine Brett's gonna be on the mound for this one. It only makes sense. Maybe not. We'll find out. But
yeah, strategy is still to be discussed. But
Peter could pitch this game. I think you guys will be fine.
It's what you said in your last podcast is you try to kind of pitch against the teams that you're not going to see in the playoffs that you want to pitch. Who knows who's going to throw that game? Like you said, maybe Pete goes out there. We still have PG in the back burner too, but we want to start off with a win, obviously, and sitting for 2 weeks with a loss against the Expos is going to weigh on the mind. So maybe we go me or Sam to just start off and start hot, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt.
All right. Well, let's jump into the rest of the schedule, guys. When you take a look at the rest of the rundown, what were your first impressions when you saw it, the way it all panned out? I'll go first, and just like my first impression, the first thing I looked for was something that people were asking Sam for last year or after last year, but having gaps for each team, little breaks where as our families are growing, more players have kids and have spouses now. A lot of guys were starting to ask for just bigger chunks of time, if possible, to where they could spend some time with their family, either at the park or at home before they come, or after, leave early for a little bit. So that was the first thing I kind of looked at. And then, for the most part, it seems pretty balanced, and that could just be because of the way in my head, these teams are kind of stacked up against each other. We'll break down each team here, but just overall, what were your, first thoughts when you saw the schedule come out?
What shot out at me was, Sam always kind of sets it up so the last Monday games are rivalry games and interdimensional, like division games. Thank you. Yeah. So that it's going to be kind of that. He always tries to make it come down to that Monday morning. So I'm looking for the Monday morning games, the Yankees, Marlins, the White Sox, Twins. I like that one too, because you never know what happens with some of these divisions. If the Orioles drop a couple here and there, we lose the Expos, we lose to Jimmy, and then the Orioles Astros game becomes bigger. I like these type of the way he sets it up. I think so. That's where my mind went. The Monday morning games.
Yeah, first thing I always do when the schedule comes out is I look to see what is my earliest game that I have to play this year. And the earliest game I have to play this year is on Saturday morning at 7:15. Perfect time for a McDonald's McGriddle. There's nothing that goes down better at 7:15 than McDonald's McGriddle. So probably be eating that morning. But that's a big game. Twins Marlins. The Marlins are a team that made a ton of improvement last year. They have an MVP caliber player in Luke Bacula, but I'm not even sure they like being a part of this team, to be quite frank with all of you guys. They don't show up to anything. They don't participate in the group me. They're just a bunch of losers. So I don't even know if they're going to show up for the 7:15 a.m. game. So I feel like I need to check with Sam to say, hey, what are the rules if the other team doesn't show up? Do we automatically win? Do we get to face ourselves? So it's kind of like one of those things, you order DoorDash and the food just comes completely wrong. Happens all the time. I expect that from the Marlins. So other things I noticed, Orioles don't play a 7:15 a.m. game. Very
Just an
interesting
eight.
how
Just an
that
eight.
worked out. Interesting. Very interesting how that worked out. I wonder who made the schedule there.
Just an eight.
And yeah, I agree with Brett. The Monday games are always fun to look at too.
Yeah, I do like the way that Sam builds toward the Monday, ideally making it, where you've got teams who aren't playing even, but they're sitting there watching because an outcome of a different game could put them in the playoffs or could knock them out. It's really well thought out by him. I know he puts a lot of work into it, so he does a great job. So, well, guys, let's jump into, like you guys have already started leading into it, but the individual teams. And since you two are my guests tonight, we're going to start with your two teams. Starting with the Orioles, as we've kind of already said, no 7:15 games. You do have two 8 a.m. games, though. So you have two, what normally would have been the first game of the day. But you have two of those. Did you just realize that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at the Orioles schedule specifically, what stands out to you?
Okay, well, right there, the 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. games. That's a little rough, but I like the pre-weekend game. I really like that, and I Spencer had said that not many teams like to do it. I love playing the first pre-weekend game. I mean, it's not like you get your jitters out because the weekend is the weekend. It's a different experience, but just what we used to do is we played like every week. It was fun, stretch it out. I like that. I get we do the summer league, but this is a little bit more meaningful of a game. So. Yeah, I mean, I think you had said this in another podcast, Bogad, that you kind of, or maybe Matter, but you guys look at it and you see, all right, where am I going to get my wins, and where am I going to get my 6 wins specifically? And looking through the line, you don't see a lot of easy wins. Like the Expos should be an easy win, but you never know how Jimmy's going to pitch. The A's are down, but you never know how Evan's going to come out. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint what I'm looking at, but in the division, the Orioles, Astros, Athletics, you have to win 3 of the 4, I'd say, at least 3 of the 4. Hopefully ideally you take all of them, but you're still playing the Twins eventually. You're still playing the Yankees eventually. So it's a mishmash of, mashed potatoes out there. Like it's going to be, who knows what's going to happen, but that's where my mind goes, is where are we going to get our wins and how do we get them?
Yeah. A thing too that I noticed, and this was the case for the Astros last year, but you guys finish the season with 3 away games. So last year was 4 for the Astros. And actually you guys were kind enough to flop our games. And so it was not 4, it was 3, but yeah, you guys have 3 away games to end the season, at the Marlins, at the Yankees, and then at the Astros.
Whew. Yeah, that's a tough lineup. And yeah, I didn't even notice that, but that's an interesting little tidbit too. I mean, Sam was, as busy as popcorn on a skillet most of the time. So he probably didn't even notice that we were away 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I was giving him crap last year about the Astros like that. And he's like, dude, I didn't even realize it. And then, we flopped those games. Luckily we were all in the same division last year. So we were able to just flip the other game.
You flipped them like pancakes.
Like pancakes, yep. Yeah.
So when I look at the Twins schedule personally, and first of all, Brian color coordinated this entire schedule. I think that was him. And if it wasn't, someone did, which makes this very easy. Mm-hmm. I noticed 2 things. On Saturday, the Twins play 2 games very early, 7:15 and 9:30, and then they don't play again for 7 hours. There's a 7-hour break. So could be good, could be bad. But there's 2 games in the night. And then the other thing I noticed on Sunday is then the Twins play 3 back-to-back games. There's 3 games in 6 games. Play a game, off a game, play a game, off a game, play a game, off a game. Mm-hmm. So Monday playing the White Sox, that's probably a game that's going to determine the division, I would imagine. So that's a big game. And then the first game of the season against the Orioles, that's kind of a litmus test. So I think teams will probably see a different lineup this year than they're used to seeing. And I think they'll probably see a couple of other different things than they're used to seeing
from the Twins.
So yeah, I'm gonna, remember growing up, like mama used to hide the cookies and you had to go find them. That's kind of what we're doing with our lineup. So
Okay.
we're going to keep it that way.
So you're benching Chris Matter. He's not going to play the field.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Edlow's in left field.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
One thing that stuck out to me when I was kind of looking at the matchups for the Twins, the end of Saturday and into Sunday, like the 3 games toward the middle of your schedule are all division games. You back to back to back. You go Rockies, Sox, Rockies. So right there in the heart of it all could determine that division. I mean, obviously the White Sox game at the end too, but you could potentially get a pretty good leg up on the division, right kicking off Sunday morning after that game.
Yeah, and I don't know. We've always the Twins have coined Sunday moving day. So Saturday is your base. That's your bun. Okay. Sunday is the burger, the lettuce, the tomato, and then Monday is the other bun. That's how you complete your burger. So all the good stuff of a burger that comes on Sunday. And we see those games. We play the Rockies, the Astros, the Yankees, and the Athletics. So there's a lot of room there to make a run. And that's kind of how we see the schedule. So,
yeah.
I think specifically what you're talking about, where you had like bunches of games, I think Sam attempted to do some of that on purpose for what Benware was saying, is that it gives people a break to go home and help their wives, help their kids, whatever.
Yeah.
Which I actually I like playing almost like a game off. Back-to-back games, that's a lot. That's tough in the heat drinking, but playing in bunches kind of is nice to keep your mind focused, and then you can like say, all right, I'm off for 4 hours. I can do whatever I want. I can take stats and relax, and I like that.
Yeah, it gives you time to get maybe go talk with some of the guys who aren't playing as well. Like get a little bit more time where you're not trying to chat with somebody for 15 minutes. Oh, we play in the next game, so let me go back and warm back up down in the bullpen and running around. You have that, and then as much as we love having our families and fans watch our games, it's also kind of tough because your kids, as they get older, they want to be with you and you're out on the field playing, and so you're not really spending that time with your family. Even though like I said, we love having them there. It just, if they come up to the field and they get to hang out with you for 5 hours, or if you go home and give your wife a break, because they make this weekend possible just as much as the Skibbies do and everything. Maybe not just as much, but
Brian, I got 2 words for you. I got 3 words for you to fix your family problem. You don't have to think of that family ever again to Memorial Weekend if you have wine and you have freeze pops. Wine and freeze pops cures all the struggle.
All right.
That's all you need to know.
Don't they make alcoholic freeze pops now?
They do, but I would not give those to your kids.
Might help them nap. So.
Okay.
All right, let's jump into the rest of the teams. We'll start with the Astros just because we're going to go in alphabetical order. When you look at the Astros schedule, what do you see? To me, when I looked at it, seemed pretty balanced. Didn't have a whole lot of tough opponents back to back. Felt like it was pretty spread out, pretty manageable. Anything stand out for you guys?
Spencer?
Yeah. That 2:45 game on Saturday, that stands out to me. That's a big game for those Astros. They're playing the Rockies of Colorado. Probably lots of, I'm expecting a food fight in that game. It's going to be chaos.
Yeah, there's going to be some pie in the sky there, but I would say the Astros are looking. I mean, the Expos. I like that matchup for you guys. Your first game. I know the Expos play in the pre-weekend, but throwing out that stuff aside, you don't really roll all that stuff over, but Astros Expos to start, I like that start. It's fun because that's how we started the year last year. And then I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Monday at 8 a.m. game against us, the Orioles, did we play you guys last year? And
Yep.
that was
our Monday game too.
And that was pushing to the playoffs because I know we had the same division last year, Orioles, Astros, Athletics.
Yeah.
But that can decide your playoff spot or vice versa, ours, if something doesn't go as we foresee. So we don't know if it's going to be a piece of cake, but you guys, that 8 a.m. game right there, that's a big one that stands out for me for the Astros. But yeah, 6:30 p.m. on Saturday against us too. It's going to be a kind of a drunk fest there. Just
oh boy, yeah, that's a late game, but luckily it's not the last game of the day. But yeah, we've got kind of ending our day, hopefully not ending our season on that game, but yeah, we kind of get you guys toward the end of the end of the day season twice there for the division. Another thing I'll mention, I said this last year too, but the Astros, we have never won our first game in our whole entire existence. We've never won our first game. We've always started 0-1. So, and I said that last year against the Expos and we still lost. So we'll see what happens. But it is going to be fun to kind of kick off the season with that rivalry. Hopefully, we've got some fans in the seats already by the time that comes. I imagine we will. But it should be a good way to start the season. So how about, next, the Athletics.
There's really only one game that stands out to me for the Athletics, and it's what we've all coined every year, the Toilet Bowl. And that occurs Saturday night at 7:15 against the Expos. I expect this one to be a game for the ages. I think both teams are going to be coming out here fighting for their first or second win of the weekend. And I expect both teams to be completely sober, no alcohol ingested. And like my Aunt Ruth always said, there's nothing like a bowl of casserole on a Saturday night. So let's get it going, baby.
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, the Athletics Expos is what stands out. I like that. I mean, no one expects them to compete, for a championship this year. They're building. I mean, they signed Evan. They Expos brought in Sam. I mean, they're pretty comfortable with what they're doing. But that 7:15 p.m. game is going to be fun. But other than that is the game one. I mean, it's a different experience, and I'm excited that the Rockies and Athletics get to do it. Let's see. I mean, the Athletics have a tough run on Sunday too. They play, let's see, the White Sox, Orioles, Astros, Twins. That is a tough Sunday. Mm-hmm. So, and then they play the Yankees on Monday morning. So, I mean, they need to do some damage Friday or pre-weekend Friday and Saturday. They need to really do some damage, put themselves in a good position.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I kind of noticed too, after their first three games, I think are going to determine who they are. Obviously those you just pointed out, the last 5 games of the season are pretty tough for them, but they've got Rockies, Marlins, and then Astros. And those are all teams that are going to be, quote unquote, competing for that wild card spot. So we're going to kind of have, I feel like, a picture of who they are after those 3 games. Like, where do they really stand in regards to a playoff run? Now, if they win those 3 games, they still have those 5 games to go at the end, but that at least will give them a fighting chance. But if they, go 1-2, 0-3, it's going to be pretty tough to bounce back from that. Yep. All right. The old Canadians, the Expos. What are we thinking about these cats? They have 6 games before Sunday, just like last year.
You know what I hate about Canada? I'm just going to come out and say it. The way that they make their bacon, they don't really cook it. It looks like ham. And you know what? Sorry, Expos, but you guys are kind of hammy to me. I like my bacon crispy and I like it fried. And to me, when I watch the Expos play, I just kind of feel like It's not a finished product, kind of like the Canadian make their bacon. So I'm sorry, guys, but again, looking forward to that 7:15 game against the A's. We're all rooting you on. We want a show. Give us a show. But do me a favor and cook that bacon, man.
Let's say I thought you were gonna say poutine. Isn't that a Canadian thing? Poutine?
It might be. I think that's kind of a French thing too.
Yeah, hey, I don't know. That's what came to mind for that food. Either way, Expos, same thing. They 7:15 p.m. Yeah. They need to start quick, but unfortunately they're kind of flipped. They lose to the Orioles, they lose to the Astros opening day. If they lose to the next game's the Twins, the next game's after that is the Yankees.
Good Lord.
They play the Orioles, Twins, Yankees, 3 of the 4 first games. So I mean, if they go down 0-4 or 1-3, they're in big trouble. I mean, Jimmy.
Hold on. 1-3. Who are they beating, Brett?
I mean,
Maybe
they could pull any of them out, but the best probability is probably the Astros.
Whoa,
they're gonna throw Jimmy.
Man. Wow.
But there's no
Wow.
such thing as a free lunch. Okay. There's no such thing as a free lunch. you have to buy your pudding and eat it. You have to just throw Jimmy and we'll see what happens. But that's a tough way to start the schedule, man. I mean, I don't envy that.
Yeah.
Anything
else to add, Spence?
I already gave my bacon take. I don't know what else you want.
You just were looking like you had one more thing to say. So, all right.
All I'm going to say is I actually agree with Brett. I think they'll be 1-3. I think they're going to lose to the Orioles and they're going to play the Astros that first game. And the Expos are going to have some practice under their belt. And I think that game, I think the Astros are the better team, but I would not be surprised if the Expos come out firing, throw Jimmy, and steal that game. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and Spencer and I could be sitting here with egg on our face in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Making these predictions.
Absolutely.
I mean,
all
everybody,
of us kids, Benware. He's going to have egg on his face.
Yeah, nobody thought when the Expos won that they were going to do what they did, and they won really close games, and they just hung around and stayed in it. So you're right. No, when Jimmy on the mound, nothing is easy.
Mm-hmm.
You have the exception to the rule where they get blown out with Jimmy on the mound by the Astros 2 years ago, just whooping up on them. But other than that, it's not always easy. But I agree. I think, boy, we'll really know how much drinking is going to be happening by about midday on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, the Marlins, much improved Marlins from last year. That Yankees game does really stick out. Could make or break the playoff run for them. And it's tough. That's a tough matchup to have if you're fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, when I look at the Marlins schedule, I just can't help but feel like I just feel dirty. I know last year they were a good story and everyone was excited and whatever. They had Jordan, they had Luke, but I feel like they think that they're better than everybody else. They just don't participate, and then they just want to show up and be the good guys. No. I think they're becoming the most hated team in the league, to be quite honest with you. Have you ever gotten food at any restaurant really, and you take the leftovers home and you're like, oh, I got all this pizza I'm gonna eat for lunch tomorrow, and you put it in your fridge and some things get in front of it, it gets pushed to the back and you forget all about it, and then you pull it out and it's rotten and moldy and it's gross. Well, guess what? That's the Marlins. Everyone has forgotten about them. To me they're just kind of the bottom of the barrel. So I don't even really want to look at their schedule, Brian. I'm going to pass. I'm not even going to mention them.
After he talks about them for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was talking about moldy pizza.
That's true. Okay. So back to the meat and potatoes, the schedule here. You're right that Monday game at 9:30 could get them in the playoffs. but the Yankees might not care about that game as much. They might be like, all right, we're in, we got this seed. We know where we're at. We're gonna get warmed up for the playoffs. We're gonna heat the skillet, but not turn it fully on fry yet. So I don't know about that. They should win their first game, but then they play the Twins, and that's tough. Yeah, I'm with you. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I'll see him probably at Mo Whiff, but it's been a while. They weren't at the division draw, so I didn't get a chance to speak to him other than Annie, who came as their proxy.
Yeah, how embarrassing for them.
Yeah. All right, the Rockies. When I looked at their schedule, their easiest games might be their first game and their last game, and the rest is kind of crap for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for any of the tier 3 teams because they only play the other tier 3 teams once each. So yeah, you're right. They start out with the A's and they start out with the Expos. So theoretically, those are their 2 games that they just have to get.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where to go with that one. I mean, the Rockies they make the playoffs like what, 7
every year but last year.
Something. I mean, but Adams should get better. I feel like Jason should get better. I think, but Grant might take away some ABs. But I do know Blake has been saying, if Grant doesn't perform or BK doesn't perform, they'll flip flop and they'll leave the hot hand in. I think this time and roll. So I don't know. That's the end of that. So I don't know what to think of there.
Yeah, to me, the Rockies are. I would not be shocked if, like, I know they're in my division and we have a tough division, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were able to weasel their way into the playoffs. They have so much experience on that team that really all you got to do is win 5 games. I mean, 6 feels good, but like if you can win 5 games, you're fighting. And I see 3 games where like they should win. So they just got to win 2 out of the other 8 or 2 out of the other 7. That's not really that unreasonable. Blake is former MVP, multiple time champion, very clutch. BK, hands to me over the franchise era, is probably the top 5 most valuable player you could have on your team. His defense is unbelievable. He had a really bad year last year. I really think he's going to, I just can't imagine that happens again. I just think he gets back to his form. And then having Grant back is so big. Like people just aren't even thinking about that he's one of the main pieces of their lineup, and he just wasn't there last year because of COVID. So, and then they have those other pieces, the rookies last year. So I like the Rockies. Again, tough division, but I really like their team. They play the A's early on. They got the White Sox. I know the White Sox are good, but like that's going to be a close game, So then Yankees, that's tough. Marlins, you never know. Marlins pitching isn't that good. So long story short, I'm looking forward to see how everything turns out. To me, they're like a fine wine. You just leave them in storage, open it up, it tastes good. You leave it a little longer, it tastes even better. So yeah. We're opening up that bottle of wine this year.
Yeah. Well, and you guys were talking about the toilet bowl Saturday night, and traditionally the toilet bowl is the last game of the season, which is where they are right now. And that's mostly based on last year's finish with 2 wins. And the Expos only having 1. So they're getting to inherit the traditional toilet bowl slot. But we'll see if that actually comes to fruition by the end of Monday. So, all right, the White Sox, in all black here. So what are we thinking about the White Sox?
I mean, Spencer touched on it a little bit. The 8:45 game on Monday could, against the Twins, could decide the division winner. But man, I mean, the White Sox start with the Rockies, the Orioles, Yankees, Marlins, and Twins. So
Saturday's tough.
Yeah, that's Saturday. I mean, yeah, the fat is in the fire. That's the trouble's coming right there. That Saturday is tough. So they need to pull out a couple wins there. I think if bringing in Trent is, obviously he's, everyone's excited for him to come back. He's going to be that, all right, pick it up. We're fine. No big deal. Like we lost, no big deal, whatever. I think if they lose, enough, they have the mentality of being like, I don't know if we're going to do this. I don't know. I don't know them well enough to say one way or the other, but I think Trent's going to be the one that if they start off slow, he's going to need to pull them out.
Yeah. And I think I agree with that. And they're returning basically the same team, and, any good teams like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Like you cannot have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without one side having the peanut butter and the other side having the jelly. And they're both equally important. And I think last year, this team was all peanut butter and they just didn't have jelly. And I think Trent is coming in and he's going to slap that piece of bread ass with a big old hand of jelly, and they're going to complete this team. And like I said before, there's only 5 teams that make the playoffs. I'm looking at the other divisions: Orioles, Astros, A's. I think Orioles are in. Yankees, Marlins, Expos. I think Yankees are in. Marlins, I don't know. Twins, White Sox, Rockies. Like, to me, that's up in the air. So White Sox have a lot of opportunity. I don't think anything's set in stone. They could easily win their division, a lot of winnable games, but they are probably the most polarizing team that we have. They have the highest ceiling and lowest floor, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And that leads us to the defending champion Yankees. They're the only team with 2 games on Monday. So could be an advantage if you get hot and kind of carry that into the playoffs later in the day. But what kind of sticks out to you guys?
Yeah, that also is, it's tough to play that many games on Monday, as if they intend to run through the championship, then if they don't get the first seed or win the division, maybe they somehow get a wild card, maybe, but it could be 4 games, it could be 5 games. So that's a lot, but I mean, I think last year when they brought Gus in, I think they're on the gravy train, but the goose is cooked. Although, and when I say that, I mean, the goose is cooked. It's just cooked at a little bit less temperature. There's no way Gus does what he did last year, but I think the Yankees are in a comfortable position to come out of that division. So when I look at the schedule, I'd say that, yeah, the 2 games on Monday stick out just because it's a lot to play and they don't play on that Friday night, but one team just can't play on Friday night because we only had 9 teams.
Yeah, and let's not act like the Yankees haven't had preferable scheduling in the past. They seem to get every request filled because some people live out of the state and can't get flights home in time. But let's not make anything out of that. The thing that stuck out to me is that 4 out of the 5 Yankees' last games are against teams that made the playoff last year. That's tough. That's Sunday and Monday. Okay. So actually 5 out of the last 6. That's not easy, so they're going to be very top heavy in the beginning. I expect them to be 3-0, 4-0, whatever it is going into that stretch. But like Brett said, that's tough. It's not easy getting up at 7:15 on Monday, playing 2 games and then playing in the playoffs. That's a very long day. And the last thing I'll say is the Yankees had an incredible year last year, but just about every player on their team had a career year, just about. And to me, that's just so hard. They're so good and so talented, but it's just so hard to replicate that same performance across the board. Kevin Pulley by far was the most improved player. Like he could have been most teams MVP last year. He was so good. Gus, we don't even need to talk about him. He's incredible. Sam Bakula had an amazing year, hit a ton of home runs. And maybe that's because Gus was added to the lineup. But, to me, it's like, it's like putting corn on the cob on the grill. It's like, how many times can you cook the same corn on the cob, right? Like you got to switch it out every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's play a game. Over under. I'm going to give you a line and you tell me if you're picking the over or the under on wins for each team. Okay. Astros, 4.5.
Go over. I think they go 5-5.
Man, that's a really good line. I'm gonna go under.
Athletics, 4.5.
I think, I mean, it's just since I said over for the Astros, I think the Athletics go under. Yeah.
They got to play the Orioles twice, Astros twice. You got to think that's probably 3 losses just in division. And then you got to play the other. Yeah, I don't see it.
White Sox, Twins, Yankees, Marlins, all who made the playoffs last
You
year.
got Rockies, Expos, and Astros twice, and the rest of your games are against playoff. I just think that's tough. So I'm gonna say under.
All right. Expos, 3.5.
Under.
Yeah, I got to go under until they prove me wrong. But with Sam Eichenlob, I don't know. I just don't know the depth or how much they're going to hit them, or I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Marlins, 5.5.
I think they'll pull back a little bit. I'll go the under.
Yeah, they get the Expos twice, Rockies. That's a really good number, Brian. I'm gonna say under just for semantic purposes.
Okay. Orioles, 7.5.
You go first on this one.
I think it's very likely they win 7 or 8 wins. But I'm gonna say under because it is so hard. Like if you go back and look at the history of our league, it is so hard to go 8-2. Like 8-2 is so hard. They probably will go 7-3. So I'm gonna say under.
Yeah, I was thinking 7-3, so I'd say under. It means the Orioles would have to sweep the Astros and the Athletics, and that's 4, and then win 4
and 3.
Yeah, I mean, against that, it's Twins, White Sox, Yankees, Marlins. I'd say 7-3. I'm good with the under.
8. Yeah, you know what? After you said that, 8-2 actually looks pretty promising. But yeah, I'll stick with under.
Okay. Rockies, 4.5.
I'm gonna go over. I think they're gonna surprise some people. I think they're gonna go 5-5, which is fighting for a playoff spot. And I would not. I think we have the hardest division. White Sox, Twins, Rockies, in my opinion, is the toughest division because of them. Your division's only as good as the team that is ranked last, and I think they're the best team that's ranked last.
Yeah, that one's the toughest I think so far, just because of their division, Twins and White Sox. But I think the Twins will be the Twins. They're going to win. I think they'll get in. But like Spencer and Chris have said before, they look for their wins, and if they've got their wins, and I don't know when the Twins play the Rockies on Sunday again, so maybe at that point they have their wins and they're slacking back a little bit. I don't know, but I like them at 5-5 too. I just think they sneak 1 or 2 against the White Sox. I mean, Jackson's tough, but yeah, I'd say 5-5 with them.
Over. All right. Twins, 6.5.
I'll go first on this one since it's your team, but you said 6.5.
Yeah.
All right. I like the 7, and I like 7-3. That number just seems good because it means they can split against the White Sox. They could split against the Rockies, and then they beat the Astros, Athletics, Expos, and the Marlins. So I could see 7-3. So yeah, I'd go with the over there.
Going under. We're traditionally we're 6-4. That's pretty typical.
Spencer's humble as pie.
Yeah, I might be eating pie.
White Sox, 5.5.
I'm going over. I think they have a strong bounce back year. I think Trent makes a huge difference. I still think they're struggling to find that second pitcher, which is so hard. I think they got the defense, the offense, but that second pitcher, that's tough. They need to find someone that can throw strikes and just steal a couple wins. They don't have to be dominant, but that's what they need.
Yeah, I kind of think I would say I'll save it 5-5 just because I think the Rockies take one or two from them. I think they take maybe one. I would think probably they split. I think the Twins split or the Twins take both. So I'll say 5-5, and them and the Rockies basically are fighting for the wild card spot or both wild card spots at that point. 5-5, so under.
Okay. And Yankees 7.5.
I mean, what'd they go last year? 9-1,
8-2.
8-2.
No,
I think they were worse.
they were. You guys were the 1 seed, and they were the
I have under.
Okay.
2 seed.
I
They
just
went
can't go going
might have
over
been
7.5 is just a crazy.
Yeah, they went 8-2 and we went 8-2. It's tough to win 8 games. I mean,
It's so hard.
it is really hard. You lose focus. Someone drinks too much, or like someone pitches bad one game. I mean, you lose right there. It's tough to go over 7.5, but I just say that. Yeah.
All right. Which team, typically every year, people are down on a team, don't feel they're going to perform as well. Last year, when I did this podcast, John Callaway somehow predicted the downfall of the Rockies before the Rockies had their downfall. Is there any team that you're kind of down on this year?
That we think is under
That you think are going to underperform to what expectations are?
I think I'd say the Marlins, just because they have higher expectations now that they made the playoffs last year. And it's going to be tough to repeat that with the White Sox, Astros, and theoretically the Rockies and A's pushing them a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Marlins as well. Yankees, I mean, it's so hard to repeat. Nothing against them. It's just that's the fact of the matter. Probably going to have some pressure for everyone on the team to contribute in the same way. But definitely the Marlins, man. Like they're going to come in cocky with swagger. Like Jordan hit 7 billion average, and Luke had a great year. I kind of laid off Luke last year. I didn't really get in his head as much as I'd like. So I'll be ramping that up. And then, they bring all the fans with all the little cute little like shirts and the little hats and everything. You know what? We're tired of it. So it's about time to pack up, get your 4 wins, and we'll see you at the barbecue on Monday. Okay.
Yeah. And I think I know the answer to this, but what team are we higher on? Who we expect to kind of exceed expectations, or maybe you can call it most improved from the season before, but I would guess you're both going to say the Rockies, just the way you've been talking tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that sticks out to me, really. It's just they had a bad year last year. I feel like they'll do better, but I also feel like the White Sox are in that realm too, where they underperformed considering what we thought they would do. Derek had a rough year. I think he should do better. And yeah, so one of those 2 teams, but the Rockies are probably up there for me.
Yeah, to me, it's Rockies, White Sox, Astros. I think all 3 of them are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. And unfortunately for the White Sox and Rockies, they're in the same division. I don't know if we've ever had 3 teams from the same division make the playoffs. That
We haven't.
It
is possible. We've talked about it every year.
It's possible, but
never happened. It's so hard.
It's hard. So I think, Twins, Orioles, Yankees are looking pretty good for playoffs. And then you've got, 4 teams fighting for 2 other spots. It's the Rockies, the White Sox, the Astros, and that team that starts with the letter M. So we'll see. But yeah, those are the 3 that I think will improve.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the schedule talk, guys. We're going to get into hard hitters. So just some questions to get to know you guys a little bit better. Spencer, you just went through a round of this, and should be fun. It's just like I said, just for fun and to get to know each other a little bit better, and the fans to get to know you guys if they don't already. But we're going to start out with who is your favorite player to watch in the SWBL? and it cannot be somebody on your team. So who are you a fan of?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So I really like watching Breida play when he used to play, and then he retired. But man,
I got one. I really like watching BK play. He in the field, I'll say that. He just makes like huge plays. Like he's an inning killer. We talked about in the last podcast. The teams that wins are the ones that can just get outs. That's really what it comes down to. And he does it so seamlessly. He reminds me a lot. Him and Chris Netter are very similar, but BK kind of does more diving theatrical plays than Chris. Chris isn't the type of guy that's going to like lay out necessarily, but he's like a cat. Like he kind of gets there in time. But BK, like he's like a highlight reel type of guy. So
yeah,
I think BK.
That's a good one. Paul Castellano sticks out for me. I think I like watching Paul play. He's a fun guy to watch. He's running around there in left field too. He's good out there. So at one point a while back, he had like 40 home runs in the season. He had the home run record for a while. So he's fun to watch.
He is one of the, I mentioned this last year, but he's one of the only, if not the only player to be nationally ranked in all three facets of the game. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's
something,
cool.
something pretty
Brian,
cool.
I know you didn't ask, but the player I least like watching play,
Yeah, let's do it.
besides if we're leaving like Marlins players out of it,
Yeah.
it's definitely Brett. I don't want to make things awkward, but Brett is, can't stand that guy.
You got one?
Who do you think I'm gonna say? Like,
come on, don't do
It's Blake.
Don't do Edlow. Don't do Edlow like that.
One of my
man.
favorite things Blake does is when he strikes out, he just drops the bat.
Yeah,
I could watch that all day.
And Blake's actually one of the best ones to watch because his little mannerisms and the bug comes near him.
How did we forget that one?
Yeah. All right. Speaking of brothers, though, I want you to pick a player on.
Wait, will you pick who's one of your favorite players to watch?
Me?
Yeah,
I really like watching Chris play.
Matter.
Yeah.
It works in different ways.
Is it his biceps?
It has been lately, but no, somehow that dude is always, I think the reason that he's not making all the diving catches and some of the stuff BK does is because somehow he always stands in the right spot in the field. Like he seems to know I need to be 3 inches to the left here. And that way he just has to like react. But I've just always liked watching him play, and he's not really known for like as a power hitter. Like he obviously he does hit home runs and stuff, but he'll find a way to get on base. He doesn't care. And I just love that. I really like watching him play. So
yeah, it's a good one.
All right, pick a player on your team, and then I want you to cast an actor to play them in a movie. Or I guess I could pick a player.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy? He's in the movie Without a Paddle, and he's also in the Scooby-Doo movie. He plays
oh yeah, it's are you gonna say Edlow?
Something Green.
Because I actually asked this question to John Calloway and Edlow when I did this podcast last year, and he said this guy's name.
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
That's Edlow.
Yeah, that's who he's
Matthew Lillard. Everybody, if you're still listening an hour in, look up Matthew Lillard and just pull up a picture of Edlow next to it, and you'll see what I mean.
That's a pretty good one right there. I mean, I'm thinking Sam, just because I feel like he's, out there. I'm thinking of actors with glasses. I don't know. Can you think of any actors with glasses?
I think Sam Skibby. Let's see. I'm Googling right now. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't think of one right now, but I'll put that on the back burner. Just pass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard hitting question right there.
Yeah, I know. I like that though. That's good.
Andrew
Makes
Garfield.
sense.
I
Andrew
think
Garfield, that's a good one. If he dyed his hair blonde, and
for Peter would Cuba Gooding Jr. would be good for Peter.
yeah, I mean they look exactly alike.
Yeah, their facials, the features are
Yeah.
very, very similar.
Yeah. All right. Which player takes a step back this year? And don't say Gus, because that's the obvious answer.
I was like in the middle of that word. Actually, I would say Jordan, just because teams are going to be more fearful of him. They might walk him more. They might give him less opportunity to beat them, and maybe his teammate too, Luke. I might say myself, honestly, I probably an overachieving year in most people's minds. So, yeah, I don't know. Pick one.
It sounds mean, but obviously you're going to pick someone that had a really good year, right? Because it's just tough to do. I mean, my guy Kevin Pulley had an amazing year, and I have no doubt he could do it again, but he would probably be a candidate just because he's had such a good year. It's tough to do. Gus is one. You know, I don't know. Like Jordan, that's another good one. But on the mound, who was our Cy Wiffle winner? Was it you, Brett? Or no, Gus. Gus, like pitching. Like it's tough to win all these awards, man. Like I don't know. Probably that group.
All right. All right. We're all getting older every year, a little bit older. What's one old person thing that you guys have started doing?
Staying home on a Friday and Saturday night pretty much every week.
Being in bed by like 9:30, which is 9:43, and so I'm it's past my bedtime.
Past my bedtime, man.
All right. We're almost done. So, and then one last thing. So, what show are you watching right now, or movie are you about to watch? Like, just give us a peek behind the curtain.
I got a couple. We're watching The Last of Us on HBO. That's pretty good. Ted Lasso new season just came out. Didn't start it yet because I'm the type of guy.
Yeah, I just watched
it came out tonight. No spoilers. I like to watch a bunch of episodes at once. So I'm gonna wait for more and more to come out. But my wife and I are also like reality TV people. So we'll pour out some wine and we'll watch The Bachelorette or The Bachelor on Monday nights. We'll watch Love is Blind, so we're not big on movies. We're big on shows. We like TV shows. So that's kind of where we're at.
So I just started the last season of Snowfall on FX. I like that a lot. I'm rewatching Banshee, which is like, I love that show. It's so good. Ted Lasso, I watched the newest episode tonight. That one's always entertaining. So I'd say those are ones I'm kind of focused on right now. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, guys, that's going to do it. I appreciate you jumping on here and kind of going through what looks to be an exciting season 21. Any final thoughts before I let you get out of here? I just I want to thank you for coming on, but
no, man. I mean, I appreciate you putting it together. I'm excited to come back. We barely even touched on a lot of the players in the league that, like, Vorbeck, Cam Smith, Cole Layton was a Platinum Hands winner. We barely even Jimmy Stout, all these guys that we didn't really touch on that I'm looking forward to seeing what they do this year. One way or the other, it's going to be a fun time. People are going to get better. People are going to get worse. People are going to get mad. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be drinking. There's going to be tree arguments. Who knows what's going to happen this year? I mean, last year was the first year we ever did the bottle chug. So,
oh God,
something new every year. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same vibe for me. I'm always just Looking forward to seeing my friends. Love being on here with you, Brian and Brett. And really just encouraged with the direction the league's going. I think if we keep with this momentum, I think we may be around a while. So if we just keep trying, and we have a good thing going. I don't know if people realize that. So, 20 years, I think that's a long time. I don't know. I think we should keep doing this.
For half our lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, real quick, I want to thank our sponsors, 1356 Public House, Cardinal Blinds and Shutters, Kenny Nice Center, Corner Pub and Grill, our division sponsors this year. And then Doug Meyer and the Mo with Mojo, Andy's Frozen Custard, Breckenridge Brewery, Daily Smokehouse, Spencer Gear, Chill Designs, Breck-X, and Cool Bots. Guys, again, thanks for coming on. I've had a blast tonight. Brett, you mentioned wanting to talk about some more of these players, and one of the episodes that'll be coming out soon is a top 21 review. So we'll be talking about all the guys who made the list and maybe some guys who got snubbed or got left off, and kind of break down some more individual performances and kind of what we're expecting from that. So stay tuned for that. We'll have some special guest episodes coming out, as well as our captain's interview series will be starting to ramp up shortly, and we'll be cranking those out pretty quickly. So stay tuned. If you've been enjoying this series, just like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you guys at Memorial Day weekend at the Blur.
See you later.